Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Okay, anybody who isn't in your seat and would like to be in a seat, please move toward one, and we're going to get underway. I'm going to start by acknowledging that we're hosting today's session on the territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, the Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. It's really, really nice to be back to gathering in person. Isn't this great? In person here in this beautiful space of ours and on these lands. So grateful for that. I'm going to let you guys know as a housekeeping item that today's session isn't being, as you know, presented as a hybrid, but it is being recorded by the lovely little owl, our favorite DGC mascot up front. So that it can be shared with people outside of the room today. And so the front of the room up here is on camera, but you all are not. Take from that what you will. The folks up here at the front are all from within our elected. And that means that they're either a table officer on our executive board, or they are an elected caucus or a department rep. We use the term caucus. Or they're a member of one of the caucus advisory committees from which the balance of our board is created. And I'm pointing at you, Kearney, Piper. But we are going to go through and do informal introductions, so you'll get to know who everybody is. So just a little bit about the electoral process, so everybody's clear. The Guild elects 4 table officers. Hands up to the table officers. So we have 3 of our 4 here today, just missing Hansdale. And then each department elects 5 people for their caucus advisory committee. And those 5 people determine who's going to sit at the board for the board seat. So together that forms a 9-person executive board, most of which is here today with you. And so today, as I said, we have mostly board members and 1 caucus elected, not to single him out because he's the loveliest person you're ever going to meet.
I mean, we also have PA caucus elected.
Correct. That was my next question. Can we get the people who are from within the PA caucus to stand up so that they can be seen by everybody?
They're all there.
Awesome. Fantastic. So today's panel is aimed at sharing some stories of how these fine folks got started in film careers, and maybe they'll also share a little bit about why they decided to run for the board. I think we can move forward. So I'm going to ask you guys, once we get underway, to give the room a brief overview of the job you're in and the path you took to get to the job you're in. And before we get to that, I'll just share my own introduction, and then I'll pass it to Alexis. So myself and Alexis are on staff here at the DGC, and we want you to know who we are too. So I'm Kendrie Upton. I'm the Executive Director here at the DGC BC. And my history was 30 years as a location manager, during which time I sat on the board for about 13 of 16 years. Oh. Keep going now. Okay, good. I sat on the board for a really long time, and then I took the staff role. I also did quite a lot of authoring of courses and teaching over the years. So some of you have encountered me in the leadership course that you took before you got your membership. That's me. I'm going to hand it over to Alexis for a moment.
Should I use my own mic?
Yes.
So when there's nobody in the office, Kendrie and I sing together.
But not today.
Not today, we're not going to put you through that. But just saying, there are guitars in her office and there are guitars in my office. Anyway, I'm Alexis. For those of you who haven't met me, I might have met you on a set visit or teaching DGC fundamentals, or talked to you on the phone, or you've seen me sending you emails, what have you. Here I am in the flesh, Alexis Hinde. I started out as a PA back in the last century, and worked my way up to second AD, and then I was a member for 12 years and came on staff in September of 2015, and love my job. Happy to be here representing all of you. So,
Yeah, so I'll take that.
We'll once we get through the first step. Okay, so and I likewise started my career as a production assistant, just like all of you guys did, and so it's super exciting to see you all here today to hear a little bit about people who are sitting on our elected. Okay, so the question I'm going to get you to ask is who you are, what you do, and how you, just a brief synopsis of how you got to where you are. And I'm going to start with Matthew Chipera, and you can just pass the mic along.
Hi. Who am I?
It's like
I'm Matthew Chipera.
It's like a feeling of power, isn't it?
Weird, voice of God. Well, I began way back before color was invented in this film business. 1987, right out of high school in Calgary. I thought I wanted to be in the film industry, thought I wanted to be an actor. I did an acting course, sucked, really sucked. And said, let's go behind the scenes. So right out of high school, worked my first show in 1987 and PA'd again. And for about 5.5 years, I PA'd on everything possible. And then went up in locations, ALM, location manager. Currently now I'm a producer and production manager. That's it. Moved here in 1989. Been here since and seen this industry grow by leaps and bounds. And it's just, yeah, been a fun ride. Let's say that.
So we've learned Matthew has a face for radio.
I do, clearly.
Good start. Okay. Go ahead, Jina.
You said it. I'm Jina Johnson, I'm a location manager. I started in craft service, weirdly, at 16. At 16. Long time ago. 94-ish.
But you're only 19 now.
Yeah, thank you. And well, kind of waffled my way. I ended up being a PA. And was an ALM. Well, I was a PA for about 5 years, same kind of time frame. And an ALM for 13, I think. And now I'm a location manager.
Hey, my name's Brooker. I work in town here as a location manager, sometimes as a unit manager. And I think I got my first start in film, my first exposure to film in Calgary as well, working on a feature film called Legends of the Fall, where I was a background performer, but I was like one of the 30 closest to camera. And one day in particular, I just got talking to Edward Zwick, of all people. And man, something clicked and I changed my path entirely, moved to the coast, went to film school and started working my way up the chain, first as a production assistant, then as Kendrie and Catou's trainee as a towel and later assistants. And once I shook them off, I went my own way. And yeah, that's like, I don't know, 1997. So I've been around a little while too.
Well done. He did tell you that Brad Pitt wanted him off the film because he didn't want the competition at the lens, right? So he's gone behind camera. It's kind of similar in a way. I was in university in 1967, 68. I was also what was called the president of the Young Democrats for Kennedy when Senator Robert Kennedy was running for president. And it was an actual job because I was studying political science in college, and it was only good for about an hour, after he won California. When I went back to school that fall, the theater department sort of threw a rope around me and said, come on in, join us, forget about politics. So I went into theater, and coming out of college, I got a really nice job offer in Toronto. And so moved up to a country I'd never been to and a city I'd never been to and started working in theater. Did that for 7 or 8 years in Toronto. And then because my next door neighbor worked at the CBC, she got her producer friend to see a show I had produced and directed. And he said, you got to do television. So I started working in 78 as a third AD. There were no PAs. We didn't have PAs until in Toronto, until we did the first Police Academy movie, which I was the second AD on. And the Americans were like, you gotta have PAs, man. Like, you're staging a riot with 800 people. You're gonna do the call sheet, and you're gonna do the DPR, and you're gonna get everybody through makeup, board and hair, and you're gonna get these 800 people to look like they're rioting against each other in Kensington Market. You're gonna need some help. And so we discovered, that wonderful concept of the PA back in 1984 in Toronto. And then I continued, climbing the ladder. I wanted to direct. So I started directing. That's basically what I've been doing for the last 30 years, working as a director.
That was Allan Harmon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is our chair? The board chair. You're undercover.
Yeah, he presumed you already knew. My name is Heather Hawthorn Doyle. I am also a director. I'm the chair of the Directors Caucus. I have a different origin story. I quit and went back to school a bunch of times because I didn't have enough money to finish school. And the school I had enough money to do was BCIT, and BCIT teaches multi-camera more than anything else, and teaches all aspect of it. And I remember trying lighting and went, those suckers are heavy. Can't do that. Tried camera, not so good at that. Loved control room directing. And so was lucky enough to get a job in first year of BCIT at BCTV and news. So I was an assistant director in news, was the first job I ever got. And between first and second year, I was then directing news because no one wanted to direct in the summer. And then by the time I was in second year, I had we'll call it full-time. I've never had a full-time job in my life. It's always been contract. I had a 5-month job doing a talk show as the assistant director. Worked my way into directing, so directed a lot of multi-camera shows, did talk shows for 5 seasons, did music specials, award shows, Olympics, all of that kind of stuff. And then became a mom, which is something I always wanted to do my whole life. And so got into what we call unscripted or semi-scripted shows in the sort of lifestyle, reality, factual entertainment, documentary world. And I became a producer and show creator so that I could set my own hours. Because as a director, you have to be somewhere at a certain point in time, all of the time. As a producer, you can kind of, as my husband liked to say, work any 12 to 14 hours that you want. So I made a habit of, being there for the kids, and then they'd go to bed and I'd work till 2 o'clock in the morning. The kids finally grew up, got old, didn't need me anymore. And I went after my passion, which has always been to direct narrative, and was lucky enough to get a sort of 2 times more placement on a kids show in Toronto, where they have you watch one. It's called Dino Dana with Sinking Ship Entertainment, and you watch a 13-minute episode being shot, and then they gave you one to do, and they had the person who you watched then watched you. The biggest hurdle to becoming a director is that everybody is risk adverse, so no one wants to hire you unless they know you can do it. So this allowed them to know that you could do it. It took a year for that show to come out because it was very, very heavy VFX. And meanwhile, I was working in the factual entertainment world as like a showrunner on Love It or List at Vancouver and a bunch of those kind of shows. It came out, it did well. And then I ended up doing 3 different series with that production company. And then got my first job here directing a movie. And now have just been doing that for the last 4 years. I think I'm on my 15th movie now, and eagerly still trying to break into episodic television out here for grown-ups so that I can direct what we watch.
This is weird. So weird. I'm Catou. Hi, I'm the PM Caucus rep on the board. I too started back when dinosaurs roamed the earth sometime around 1989. Where I had the choice of working as a hostess at Earl's or taking a day call for a commercial on Canadian Airlines. So I chose the day call as a PA on Canadian Airlines commercial with the longue siege on Claude Lauzon at the time. And it was quite, first class Quebec director doing Canadian Airline commercials back in the day. I worked my way PAing, ALMing. And then I left the industry for 5 years because I had a child back in an era when nobody had children in this industry and continued to work. And it was Kendrie Upton who convinced me to come back to work when my son started school in grade 5. So I came back, I worked as a TAL, as a scout, as a prep PA, ALM, LM. I did anything I could do to stay busy. And then did that for like 26 years or so. And then I started PMing on Legends of Tomorrow in 7 years ago, I guess 7 years ago. And then I just did wrapped The Flash, and I did Altered Carbon with Gordon Piper. That's me.
I'm Spoiler alert, I'm really bad at talking about myself. Anybody that knows me. I'm a first AD in town. I'm on the AD Advisory Caucus Committee. I started in 2002 as a PA. 2002, 2003, started as a PA. Wasn't really sure coming out of university what I wanted to do, but like Matthew, I wanted to be in film. The AD team on one of the shows took a liking to me. I started as an ADPA with them and haven't looked back since. Did about 2 or 3 years as a TAD, about 5 years as a third, about 7 years as a second, and now I'm a first AD. So that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tawni Duhamel, and I am your PA caucus rep on the board. Unlike many of the people from the panel, I was actually not alive in the 80s and therefore was not working in film in the 90s. In fact, joke. Bedtime when the theme songs for X-Files came on, so. So I'll keep this brief. My career in film actually started in 2020, right before the pandemic started. My first show was The Flash. I worked as a PA. Past couple of years, I've been working as a TAD, and then of course, recently I've been working as a PA again. Much like many of you guys, I also come here with many questions, but I'm up here if anybody has any questions for me. But like you guys, I am learning every single day. I'm very early in my career, but thank you all for coming here today. And really quick, in case I don't get a chance, you guys, thank you all for being here today and giving up your time. It means a lot.
Awesome. What a fantastic panel. Okay, one thing I want you guys to cover, and then we're going to throw the mic to you guys. So this is the moment where you think about what you most want to know from these fine folks in front of you. And that is just tell us what your favorite thing about what you do now is. What's your favorite part of this job? And you can pass it back in this direction.
I have to start.
Yeah. Oh, and just one thing for clarity. So just in case you guys did not catch this, so we've got our first vice chair here, Matthew Chipera. Jina is our locations caucus rep. Ken is our second vice chair. Allan is our chairperson. And then you have Heather, who is our director's caucus rep. Catou, who is our, I can't even believe I can remember all these people. Catou, who is our PM caucus rep, and Gordy sits on our AD caucus advisory. And of course, your lovely Tawni Duhamel. Okay, favorite thing about what you do on a pretty regular basis in this job now? You can start, Tawni. You were gonna dodge it, didn't you? Forget about it.
I was like, I don't like being the voice of God. I think my favorite thing about working in this industry is that although what we do is very military, we never experience the same day twice. Things are constantly evolving for us. They're changing. We never really repeat. You know, it's a new scene every day. Every show is new cast. It's new experiences. It's constantly evolving. So I think that's my favorite thing, in addition to the fact that as I'm so new in the industry and working my way up as a TAD, I'm constantly learning something new every day. It's a very stimulating industry for me. And I feel like there's so much room for me to grow and learn as I advance my career.
Great answer, Gordy.
I kind of have the same feeling. I've been lucky enough through my career. I've learned a new technology every few years. I've gone from motion capture, I've done green screens, I've done blue screens and stunts. I've recently just done 2 volume shows. So that I find very interesting. I'm a bit of a nerd with computers, so I find that very interesting for myself.
I have to do volume work still, but I look forward to doing that. It's
We should know.
okay, maybe not. I think it's still the sense of pride that I have every morning when I go to open set. And I usually hang out by catering because then that's when people can see me and come and talk to me or grill me but I have pride still when I see the trucks out on location and I show up on set and I love it. 30+ years later, I still love it.
And by staying close to the catering truck, grilling you is fast access to the grill.
I get bacon. All about the bacon.
Go ahead, Heather.
I love what I do so much. I love creating. I love working with people. I love working with the people who were creating something in front of camera. Like I never get more joy than when I give an offer to an actor and they take it into a way that I never thought was possible. And I always say my claim to fame is not to have the best idea in the room, but to recognize the best idea in the room and then to give
full and honest credit to that person. I also, though, will give feedback if I think that things aren't going well, quietly over in a corner, because I do believe that we all work together to get better. And I think that together we can create something way better than any of us can individually. Great
Yeah, that's
answer.
good. I think a really favorite moment in my day, happens almost every day when I'm shooting, is getting back to the hotel or getting home if I'm lucky enough to be shooting near where I live. And opening that whiskey bottle and pouring it. You know, I'm only half kidding. It's really, I mean, the point behind what may sound somewhat ridiculous or banal is that, you know, you intersect what you love with your life as well, right? And if you love what you're doing in terms of these jobs that we're all involved in, including everyone that's in this room, if you love what you're doing, then the intersection of your job and your life will very often be where you can reflect on what it is you love, right? Countless numbers of experiences of name it, you know, working with Ridley Scott riding through the desert in New Mexico on a couple of Navajo ponies. I'm sitting thinking to myself, this is pretty good. This gets to be a pretty good place to be, right? And then I'll be in the GVRD just getting killed, right? You've all been there with the rain coming down. But you still say, well, do I trade this on? You know, do I go do something easier? Or do I continue to, you know, try to be as good at this as I can possibly be in order to reflect about it later? I think it's important to reflect. That's what we're all doing. This is what everybody, until I pass the mic over to Ken, which I'm going to do right now, that's kind of what you're hearing, right? Our reflections on the things that that have kept us in the business for as long as we have.
No pressure, Kat.
Ken Brooker.
You know, it's a tough question because there's so many, you know, if you've been around long enough, there's so many things that sort of keep you coming back. I was just sort of flooded with like 3 different memories that resonate with me, and I won't tell them because it'll be too long, but you know, the common thread through all of them is the people that you end up working with, whether it's your team that you've built and you're going through war together in a way, and you sort of have this shared experience of adversity and triumph and whatnot, and you literally become a sort of family. And I am going to tell 2 stories really quick, if that's okay.
That's what we're here for.
Because whether you know it or not, you have your work colleagues and whatnot, but they truly do become family. And the first story I'll tell really quickly is doing Bates Motel in the very beginning of the 4th season of Bates Motel. And I was sitting in the production manager, Heather Meehan's office, and we were just talking, it's probably 10 o'clock at night roughly. We had just wrapped Way Out in Alder Grove. And Jennifer Metcalf, our production coordinator, was sort of behind us and we got this phone call suddenly, and Jennifer's face went white. And we're all looking at each other like, what's happened? And what had happened is that our first assistant director, John George, had been in a horrific car accident way out on 264th. And the life flight was on its way from New Westminster to go land on the highway and cut him out of his car, whatnot. And you take that brief second and you pause, and you take breath, and okay, that's terrible. What do we do? And I swear to God, Heather's like, looks at Jennifer, points her, she's like, get the book. Jennifer goes to the bottom of her desk, pulls out the book. You know, a giant binder of everyone's emergency contact information. We get his wife on the phone. We already have a driver going to her house to pick her up, to take her to Royal Columbia. I was just, you know, this machine just kicks in. We take care of each other, you know, and there's a plan. And I don't know, I felt so proud of these guys. Oh my God, you guys really care what's going on, and it's absolutely true. The second related story I'll tell you is when the pandemic hit. I'm in a kind of a weird situation where my wife works for Vancouver Coastal Health at a very high level. And literally that first day, I think it was March 13th or something like that, when everything shut down. And I'm at home, we all got sent home. our dining room table became an extension of the boardroom table downtown for the health authority. And you hear all these doctors and all the people who run the whole system saying, what are we gonna do? And at that particular point, they didn't know where they were gonna get PPE from because they didn't have a stash of this stuff, believe it or not, not on the scale that we're talking about. So my wife looks across the table at me, she goes, what are we gonna do? And I immediately wrote an email to Kendrie, and I can't remember who else it was. There was 3 people. And immediately it kicked in these, everyone's just like, I'm like, we need help. So let's, as a community, get together and fund whatever we can. And Eva Morgan hopped on her front, so she's a big coordinator for IA. She got into her, whatever hive, reached out to all of her people. You guys reached out to yours, Teamsters as well. Keith Wood kicked in a bunch of stuff, and basically we started our own PPE drive here, sort of led by the guild. And I swear to God, I bet you within 2 hours, maybe less, of that email going out, Al Dales, was Al Dales the big construction firm? Showed up in my driveway at my house with his hot rod Mercedes-Benz loaded to the nuts with PPE that he had just gone and rated everything, the construction and paint and everybody had, literally been into the production. I was scrapped everything. And I think like literally thousands of nitrile gloves and stuff. And, ultimately, by the time we sort of finished that campaign, I can't remember what the numbers are. I think you've got it, but we literally truckloads of gear this community pulled together very quickly, selflessly, and just gave it to the health authority. And ultimately that stuff is what ended up on the downtown east side. That went to community health. They couldn't use it in the hospitals because it wasn't certain. They didn't know where it came from. But that stuff helped, and this community drives all of that. So that's what keeps it coming back, I think.
That's the answer ever. It's a community of doers. I just wanted to follow up by saying, John Maverdor worked here for a brief time during the time that he was rehabbing, and he's right now touring Greece with his wife, and they're posting photos to Facebook, and he's one of the loveliest people on the planet, literally. So, yeah, that was a really tough day, but thank you. Really good story. Jina, I'm sorry, no pressure, but you have to follow that show.
To piggyback on Ken's, the people that you meet, like, location management, from locations that we shoot at, you hear all sorts of stories, you talk to multifaceted people constantly, it's a fun aspect of the job. Some of these locations that we see aren't logistically sound to go and film at, but you get to see them. People don't get to see that every day, just normal public. So that's that's the favorite part of the job for me. Finding them and, sending scouts out to go and collect beautiful photographs, which, it's just a fun part of the job.
That's like an awesome scavenger hunt, isn't it? Matthew, don't forget, I'm coming to you people next, so get your hand ready to pop up.
Well, Al stole my thunder. I was gonna say favorite part of my job is being able to have a glass of wine every day.
I thought you were gonna talk about riding a Navajo pony with Ridley Scott. It's like, what are the odds? 2 of them did that.
But no, for me, it's, again, as you people have said, the variety. Every show is different. You do the same stuff, but it's always different. As an LM, as a PM, as a producer, as Jina said, seeing places and doing stuff that regular public never gets to do. It's so cool. We get to do shit no one else does. We get to blow shit up. We get to have amazing sets. We have tear-jerking moments. You have laughter, all this stuff. Every show is different, and you're part of it. And yes, people say, "Oh, you're only a PA." Fuck that shit. Sorry, excuse my language, but you're not just a PA. We're all part of it.
Spicy.
It's not said that for years. We're all part of the team. You're only as good as your PA, you're only as good as your director. The show will fail or succeed. If there's a lockup and a PA blows it, and like on 1992 movie called The Hitman with Chuck Norris, where I was in Gas House, we were allowed to hold the stop slow paddle to stop traffic. 2 in the morning,
In
the guy
Gastown.
blows past me. There's a horse-drawn carriage going across the road. He swerves, goes around, we had a cop on the other end, pulls him over. It's an undercover, not undercover cop, an off-duty cop heading home. Who's drunk? and didn't want to listen to me. He missed me by 6 inches. Could have been a lot worse. Thankfully it wasn't. Same movie, we had a stunt guy get shot. I'm the PA on it, the key PA. We're at a meatpacking plant in Surrey. Hi, craft service, can you come here? We need someone to look us up. Hi, we need an ambulance. I'm on the phone calling 911. I'm the guy, and initially it's like, oh, there's someone been shot. We're gonna, and then all of a sudden it just kicked in. Okay, we are filming this show, just almost like emergency procedures. Here's what you do. Get calm and you just do your job. And for me, I love problem solving. I love when shit hits the fan and you figure it out. And it could be Kendrie, it could be me, it could be Dominic, it could be anyone. I listen to these people. I don't know it all. I rely on my team. And that's what it is. It's a whole team thing. And great people are in this business.
You're really selling it overselling it with the shootings and the near misses. Anybody still want to be in the industry? Okay.
We
Maybe
used
this
to
one up
dream
here.
of having
You wanna
stop
better-
slow paddle.
I know.
That's not even a joke. 78, 79, 80, third AD. Well, I wasn't trained for anything like that. I'd be out in the road somewhere north of Toronto, asking people with this. Could you just stop? We're gonna do a shot here and then thank everybody on the way by, right? Including the ones that gave you gestures that were more colorful.
That we're thankless. A bunch of awesome answers, and now on to your questions. Who would like to ask our illustrious panel something? Awesome.
Hello, my name is Rania. I've been PA obviously because they've worked for me out. And now I'm been studying. My dream is to that well in this industry for now. I'm just like pointing to be a first AD, although parallel I write my own project, so everything I could direct. Anyways, my question to you is, I am in DGC since like the last almost 3 years. And I have a big problem because every time I'm in this availability list or I try to reach out to the direct contact of the people that I would like to work with, and as a PA, office PA, TAD, or location scout, because I've been a photographer back in time, I barely receive an answer. And when I receive an answer, it's always like, oh, awesome resume, because I'm quite experienced in the India and traveling different countries, but we are caught up. But we'll keep it your resume in the roster. But nobody never called me back. So this creates a bit of a psychological gap as well. I don't give up because, as I said, like all of you, like you specialize in a role, but this doesn't mean that you don't know what the others are doing. And this is my favorite part of the job. It's a collective, artistic, and handcrafted job every day in every moment. I myself saved 2 lives from allergies, being just a PA. But yeah, I don't know what you suggest me to do, because also when I get a good gig, there are the people around me who wish to get also that gig, obviously, because they are going to do a TAD course or a occasional scout, whatever. The first thing they ask me is, who do you know? And it hurts because I don't know anybody, because I'm also new to this country relatively. Obviously, I have an accent, which sometimes is a gap, but I speak 4 languages, so it should be an advantage, but apparently it's not. So, like, what do you do, guys? Like, how do you create this chemistry among people and opportunities? Because union, my country, means we give the same chances to everybody. Thank you.
Fantastic question. Okay, so how to set yourself apart? Who wants to take a crack at how to set yourself apart and really make an impression that will stick?
I don't know about answering that. What I can say is, I remember when I was trying to move up, or trying to get work as PA and then move up to be an ALM. And I'd been in the business 5.5 years, working regularly, getting hired. And other people that had less experience were then getting hired as an ALM. And I was feeling disheartened, and I felt like, I'm not good enough, what's the deal? What's going on? And easy thing to say, and it is disheartening, is stick with it and keep doing it. And at some point, again, it will happen. I do believe that. And right now, none of us are working. For very few of us. It's a tough time. I think once the strike's over, I think it's gonna get busy. but stick with it, make a point of calling people. Make a point, don't just send in a resume, follow up the phone call or go to the office and see if you can go talk to the person. That makes a huge difference because we all get lots of resumes. And, you know, some people are creative and I don't know, because I don't see resumes from PAs anymore, but it used to be that you get multicolored resumes, or you get one with a ruler that says, now that I've got a foot in the door, or one person ended up sending actual shoe and said, now that I've got a foot in the door. Being creative,
Put in the shoe.
that shoe sat in my inbox, I was an LM, I was an LM, sat in my inbox for about a month, and then I needed someone. And what did I do? I called him. And he's still in business, he's switched and he's now a Teamster, but he worked as a PA day one, kept going, doing his thing. Just, yeah, keep going and try to meet people, and try to make a point of doing it face to face, that's really important.
Everyone's gonna start getting dues in the mail, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's what I was gonna say as well. I mean, back when I started, you didn't have to choose one or the other. I mean, back when I started, you could work as a TAD or a TAL or an aide, like you could do anything. I worked as a background coordinator. I worked as background. There really was, you could do anything. But it also took forever to get your days because you just didn't have the sheer volume of projects that you have now. And yes, we used to photocopy our resumes on multicolored paper just to try and get your resume to stand out in the stack that inevitably the ALM would have. But there's just two things I want to say. One is to answer that is yes, networking, these are your peers. Participate. Get to know the people that you work with. Where's your next job? It's right here in this room. It's with your peers. It's not necessarily me. It's word of mouth. Do what you say you're going to do. Keep your word. When you're good, you'll keep working. It's just the way the industry has always been. And then the other thing I just wanted to say is, I find it a little disheartening to hear everybody say just a PA. There is no such thing as just a PA. It doesn't exist. You are a key part of what we do every single day. I worked as a PA, I worked as an ALM, I worked as a prep PA, I worked as a scout, I worked as a location manager. You are an integral part of what we do. It is a stepping stone on your way up, but you have to participate, you have to communicate, you have to work with one another, and you have to do what you say you're going to do, and you will work, you'll get recognized. Show up for work on time, show up for work early, participate, be friendly. These are all things. It's not a miracle. It's just patience and perseverance. And you'll get there. My 90th day of getting my standing same on Hastings with my stop slow paddle.
Remember when we're on
Yeah.
on Black Stallion and Field Rider, every Friday night we'll go
We're
on
so
in
old.
the downtown east side.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I would say. I do try very hard, the resumes that I get to answer. It is hard when you get 400, emails in a day. And I do try, but I also am very clear when I answer. I share resumes with other people who I know are looking. So while I might not be able to hire you, I may know that Ken is looking for someone or Tawni needs someone. And with your permission, I'll share. Is it okay if I share your resume with other people? Yeah, cool. Off it goes. And that's the starting.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
You go first, because you're part of them.
Yeah, I think don't be conscious, or I don't know the word, but if you reach a certain level, like a TAD, for instance, don't worry about going back and PAing for other people to meet other people. Like as an ALM, I would go on prep PA for location managers just to meet them. Because prep PAing actually is quite integral to a location manager because you're preparing a house or a street or whatever. So often they go down and they go and look and they meet you and they talk to you. And so that's a great way to meet the location manager or the ALM that's going to hire you on the next show or whatever. But yeah, like try and even if you reach a certain level, go back and PA. Like there's no shame in that, every level is important, like we're saying.
On
2/3 of the way through a movie, which is why I'm just a tiny bit tired, so I apologize. And one of the PAs on the movie yesterday is a producer and a line producer in unscripted. And she wants to get into the union as a unit manager, as well as she should, because she's amazing. Another thing to talk about another time. But she took the PA job and she killed it. And I was like, I've worked with her a couple of times as a line producer, and sometimes I'm like, does she really work that hard? She worked her ass off yesterday, and I totally noticed that. And out of all the PAs that are working for us, there are 2 women that, again, I very much noticed. I don't hire PAs, but I notice them. And if anybody tells you, like, here's the 3 things you need to get hired: you need skill, you need personality, and you need luck. So don't forget, sometimes it's just that the timing hasn't worked out yet. It's that extra little, anybody who tells you there's not a little soupçon of luck or timing. When I was in unscripted, sometimes it was the very last resume that happened to hit my desk when I needed someone. So just keep trying, be what we call gently persistent. Make that connection and then follow up afterwards. When your show airs, follow up with whoever hired you. Caught episode whatever, caught that movie, thought it looked great. Thank you for having me. It will remind them that you were there and that it was a success.
And one other quick thing, further one, what Heather just said is, yes, skill, but also for me, attitude. It's, I may have an opportunity to hire me, who has lots of experience, but I have a shitty attitude. Or I can hire Kendrie, that's you, Kendrie, who has great attitude, may not have as much experience. And I'm gonna go with the person that really wants to work hard and wants to do a good job. And I'll give someone an opportunity over someone else that has the experience sometimes because their personality, because their attitude, and they really want to work hard.
Or do you want to roll in? And then Ken, did you want to get on this?
Go, Courtney, go.
Just to piggyback on what everyone has said so far, I totally agree. I'm in the same boat as them. Good personality, working hard, standing on set as a first AD. I tend to notice who works hard with the good personalities. You don't have to throw yourself out there just to make sure that you're noticed, because a lot of times us ADs will notice you on the floor. And sometimes all it takes is you want to AD, talk to the first, talk to the second, just mention you want to be an AD. If you don't get the job on a show call and you happen to be PAing on a show, I, for one, and I know a lot of ADs do this, when we need a day call, we'll hire from within. We'll look for a PA who wants to AD that we know want AD and we know will work hard, and we'll give them a day call. And I can tell you that probably the last 4 times I've hired off of day calls I've had on other shows. So just put yourself out there, just work hard, and it is luck, it is getting to know people and networking, but don't feel like you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say quickly, I can hear your discouragement and, when you're saying that I speak 4 languages and you're a photographer in a past life, those are the things that I'm interested in. Frankly, when I look at resumes, I want to see stuff that is different than the rest of the herd. Not to use the herd term, but you know what I mean, like it's just what stands out. And so don't hide that stuff. That's good stuff.
And there's that old saying that luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. So be prepared when the opportunity comes. Okay, who's next? Who's got another question? Perfect.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm in Canada for less than 2 years. I have a corporate marketing background for many years, and then I was AD on commercials in another country. I'm guessing my days towards union have 7 days left during the union. So my question may be a little bit different in terms of what I want. I'm pursuing AD here in Canada, but I also am interested in main directing. So my question would be, how would you suggest, and I know that director's assistant is a non-union for most of the shows. So is there a way to shadow or assist a main director, paid or unpaid, and what would be the way to do that? Thanks.
Pass this down to Allan and Heather.
Yeah, I don't really see a lot of success coming out of the shadowing concept, and directors have been loath to even use the term. Directors, to get prepared to be a director can be extraordinary and very, very varied. As opposed to any neurosurgeon. You look at one neurosurgeon in Toronto, you look at one in Vancouver, they're gonna have the same training basically, right? How to get to be a director, that could be, the variables are just too numerous to be able to identify. So shadowing is not a term we like. I'm not a fan of it. Some people are. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't believe, you can shadow for 15 days or 30 days and add water and stir. Now you're gonna be a director. You might see some things that open your eyes to a single experience. But for me, there's no substitute for learning the job. So that, you're not just saying, I've got tastes, I should be a director. I've seen a lot of films, I should be a director. How about, be an AD for 10 or 15 years, or be a production manager, be a designer, or cinematographer? And what's the same question, what's the answer from those, job inhabitants? Usually it's working their way up in a department. So I'm sorry, I can't give you like a more optimistic answer about what shadowing can do, what it can mean. I do think if there's a good program that you've been through and you've got some work in the film business and you'd like to have a mentorship relationship that can maybe put you in the right room with the right executives on the right show, there's the possibility for some doors to open. But they're slight, kind of, right? So it's not it's not the most, guaranteed. Certainly there's no guarantee for the kind of success you might have if you do it. And I'm sorry, that's just from my personal experience. I started at the bottom, I worked my way up. So you're gonna hear that from a person like me.
Others, can you insert into your answer some information about Green Light as well?
Yeah, so a couple of things that you should know about, in the Directors Caucus, we call, what we're trying to sort of get to be a sort of a universal term is the difference between shadowing and observing. So shadowing for us is somebody that has not the experience to be a director right now, but is interested in the job. And so that could be anybody from a high school student to a mom, to somebody in a different department, to an actor, to a whatever. So that's a shadowing opportunity. And then an observing opportunity is what we in the Directors Caucus are trying to create. An observing opportunity is someone who we feel, or the people who are going to hire directors feel are just about there. I talked earlier about in the world of directing, everyone is very risk adverse. So that's what you're dealing with. So for us, an observer would be somebody that would observe a director from prep, because prep is way more important than production in an observing sense, from prep to shoot to post. And then they'll have that experience and we'll know if they're able to move on to the next stage of actually being the director of something. The people that are eligible for an observer program are directors. We're right now trying to do a observing program for MOW, for folks to direct MOWs in the observing program. So these will be directors that are already in the caucus, maybe as documentary members, maybe as indie film members who are looking for paid work. And so, not that you don't get paid in features or docs, sometimes don't get paid a lot. So it's a good next step. So we're just in the process of trying to make that program happen for observers. So when you're at a different level, Vancouver has an incredible indie community. That's where you need to learn how to direct. That's where you're going to get your experience as a first AD as well. That's where you'll get a ton of experience. Now it's tough when you're working, of course, but there are short films and stuff shooting all the time. And so it's an investment in that opportunity. And there are trade-offs and stuff like that, but that's really what you need to do is get out into that indie scene, because in that indie scene is a tremendous amount of camaraderie. Like so many people that want to help you because you help them make their project, they're going to help you make yours. And Mighty Asian MAMM is a fantastic program, and Run and Gun is a fantastic program, and the 48 Hour Film Festival. And then we at the DGC have a program called Project Greenlight. So Project Greenlight is for emerging directors in any so there's two categories, one's for directors and one's for anybody in the DGC in any other category. That includes, of course, production assistants. So you take and you'll get, if you win the competition, you get $30,000 cash and a shitload of goods and services to make your movie. So will you get that the first time you apply? Maybe, if it's fantastic and beats out everybody else, but you've got to apply to that stuff. You got to look for that stuff and apply to that stuff. And also go to, like, we'll do a director showcase in November. We'll do the Project Greenlight pitching at the same time. Go to that, see what happens so that you can do it the following year and have a better chance for success. Those programs are amazing. And we all kind of, in a mentorship sense, keep an eye on those folks, because we want them to do well. We want those films to do well. We want them to do well. But, you know, I know people say you can make a film with a cell phone. Sure you can. It may not be the greatest film ever. So try to make a film with your friends that you can do. And then again, putting it into a film festival that is a non-expensive film festival is the way to go. That, I think, is the way to get your experience and to meet people, because a lot of us in the guild, like I'll still do short films. Of course I will, like, why not? It's fun. So meet people that way as well.
I was just gonna say it's the very boring production manager side of that. And Matt, you can attest to this too. Studios can't stand the word not paid. It's too much of a risk for them. They don't like shadowing. They don't like observing. They don't. If ever I have somebody who's observing a director, it's usually an actor who is been given an episode to direct. So they're allowed to come and have their eyes opened all through prep, or it's like, wow, this is a lot of work. But all to say the major studios, and it's all because of stuff that's happened in the US about interns not being paid. And so they're very averse to that up here.
It's a WCB issue as well.
Yeah.
So the only ones that can be on set that are not paid are people in an approved school program. That's why the observer program we're looking to do will have payment attached to it. That will be minimum wage, so that it is a WCB ability.
It's very great. Somebody else have a question?
I can't help myself. I always have to interject, but I go out to high schools and universities sometimes to represent the guild and answer film student questions. And they're always like, oh, I want to be a director. And I'm like, great. What are you shooting now? You have a movie studio in your phone when you're 15 years old. And the stakes will never be lower in terms of doing something and having it be bad. Do stuff, find your voice, figure out who you are and what you want to say as a filmmaker. And then when the opportunity comes, you're ready to be an observer or what have you. Okay, who has a question?
They are.
I think this is actually a pretty broad question that builds on what we were just discussing, and this is a broad question towards DGC and everyone, all the board members, but what sort of programs does the DGC offer as for those who are pursuing career development, either within their departments, or pursuing mentorships from heads of departments, or even grants, i.e. like mentorship, short film grants, or outside grant referrals if they should choose to either produce or direct in the future.
I'm not answering. Don't pass it to me.
So the Guild has a number of programs in addition to the Greenlight program, which distributes $60,000 in short film awards every year. And there are, of course, external programs. A couple that you didn't mention are Crazy Eights and the MPA Short Film Award that happens at Whistler every year. So there's lots of great short film programs out there. And certainly the Guild has lots of programs that encourage people to professional development. A few that pop to mind are our reimbursement program that allow people to take external programming, external courses, and up to $1,000 can be rebated at 50%. So you can get $500 back a year, and that's per annum. As a member, exactly. These are all the things I'm going to talk about become available to you once you become a member. So that's one. We also have programs that we're doing right now in partnership with the Black Screen Office and the Indigenous Screen Office that are in connection with the bargaining that we did last year, where we actually started to get some traction on language for developing directors. And trying to get more Canadian directors, more BC directors hired. And so there's programs with both of those offices that are granted, that are obviously aimed at people of those diverse groups. And in addition to that, for our director members, we have various programs for things like you can get a reimbursement for a reel, you can get reimbursement for headshots. So there's a number of different things that are also available to our director members. And we have a number of director members who come in as like documentary directors and are now trying to, or like Heather, trying to make the move from one segment of directing to another. And so a lot of it's aimed at that. And I'll just finish off, and I'm sure I'm forgetting 2 or 3 things, but I'll just finish off by saying, I think, and you've heard it a lot up here so far, one of the main and most important things is to get involved. Like, come to everything that you get an opportunity to come to, so that people start to get to know you. And to the point that Heather was making about knowing those people, you know, we have a list that is tracked in our office of what we call talent to watch. And it's internal of members who've either, you know, applied for short film awards. And once you get on that list, no matter what your category, no matter what position you're working in, you'll get invited to things that are director related, which is a great way for you to, you know, network and meet people who are going to help you on your path, and also to, you know, just learn more about the position and the role. So I think that touches on a number of them, but there's definitely, our directors caucus are super active. And, you know, all engaged working directors who are looking for ways to help people just like you.
Yeah, it's quite funny with our director caucus. We take turns because we all like work a lot, and we work a lot and we're engaged in this, and we talk every 2 weeks minimum. Often we would talk every week, and once in a while we have to miss a 2-week thing because all 5 of us are on shows and we just can't get away for it. And then we'll just like email and text each other. We care a lot. We care a lot about diversity still. That has to still be our primary focus, because there are not enough diverse directors in our world. And until there is more parity, there has to be more opportunity. Once the parity is closer, then let's look at other things. Because I know sometimes it's tough. Let's say you're a Caucasian male and you're like, what about me? Unfortunately, it's a timing thing, because it was just about you for so very long. And then for a little bit of time, it was just about white women, which was awesome for that brief moment. And then we all went diversity, which is the most important thing right now, because we're nowhere close. If you take a look at the demographics of British Columbia, South Asian is like, I can't remember, it is like 9% or 12% or something. We have less than 1% members in the DGC, and that's a problem. And so we have to try to solve that problem first. So it's not a matter of, you know, not helping any other group. It's a matter of looking at the groups that need the most assistance. What Kendrie was talking about is we put on a lot of training programs nationally now. We do a bunch of stuff in BC that national then goes, well, that's a good idea. And then we're okay with it because then they have to run it, they have to take care of it and stuff like that. So pay for it, which we love. Keep your eyes open for things, because I know the TGC will sometimes do a lot of emails. Read those damn suckers, you know, because somewhere in there, sometimes it says something like right now there's like, you know, free, you can put your short film into the Whistler Film Festival, right? So if you made a short film at $1.50, you don't have to go through Film Freeway and pay their money. You can just submit it. And if it's a short, like literally think about making micro shorts, by the way, we didn't talk about that. Micro shorts stand a much better chance of getting programmed in festivals, because if your short is 2 minutes, then they could program 10 of those or 1 film. And so they'll want to program 10 of those because they'll get 10 more people coming to their festival. And there are great micro shorts. I did a micro short through the DGC when we first did a volume studio training program. And my micro short literally was a minute 3 seconds, and with credits was like a minute 58. Well, we won a ton of awards just because I think it was a micro short, it was funny. So just think about making something for what you do. Read your emails to see if there's training programs, because we do a how to direct an MOW training program. The National does like a 2-day episodic how to direct episodic TV program, and we change it up all the time with different people, because how I direct something is different how someone else directs it. So you learn stuff all the time. So keep your ears open for that, and let me commend all of you for taking time on a Saturday to come here, because it does mean that you care and it does mean that you're interested. And so that's the most excellent of first steps. And we all volunteer on the Directors Caucus, even though we're stupid busy most of the time, because we care. And we want to make things better for directors like ourselves, but like everybody. So I thank you for coming.
Yeah, and one last thing to add, as the fall approaches, you'll see ads for our, I think Heather mentioned our DGC showcase, which is a weekend that celebrates DGC directors talent. In and of that, our short film pitch fest happens there, but there's also a thing called Pitch-a-Palooza.
Oh, yeah.
Which you might find really, really interesting because, you know, the thing I didn't know from 30 years as location manager about directing is that directing is as much about being able to sell yourself as it is about being able to direct. And so Pitch-a-Palooza is an opportunity to get up in front of a live audience and pitch yourself, your project, however it's going to work. And it's an opportunity for you to learn from all the people who are also doing it in front of you. So that's another one I would really encourage you to attend. Okay, Tawni, did you want the mic?
Are you done? No, I'm
Oh.
just holding on to it. Apparently, I turned it off.
I was not emotionally prepared.
I'm supporting my director, but I'm holding the, yes.
So something. However, I don't do technology, you guys. You have to hold it by your mouth.
Hold it close.
I turned it off. I was a good girl.
So I wanted to jump in really quick, because I know that applications will be coming out in the fall for something that we did last year, and it's called the CLC Winter School. I don't know if any of our associate members saw the email that we sent out last year for it, and it's not necessarily a specific film industry career development training opportunity, but it is just a managerial and working with groups, and I'm not doing a very good job pitching this to you guys, but it's an incredible opportunity. And basically it's a scholarship program that was kind of my baby that I brought to the board last year, which was approved and had phenomenal success last year. We had amazing reviews from the members who applied and were selected to attend. And essentially what happens if selected, you go to Harrison Hot Springs for a week. The DGC pays for your accommodation, your course, food and everything like that is provided. And you get to take a specialized training course, and they offer, I don't want to be here for 20 minutes going through every single course, but there is a plethora. There is women in leadership, building psychologically healthy workplaces, truth and reconciliation, working with Indigenous communities. There is a plethora.
There's some union focused stuff in there as well.
Yes, it is. It's put on by the Canadian Labour Congress, so it is very union focused. And you get to go with people from unions across the province. So you get to go with brilliant, like-minded minds from all the different unions across BC. It's an incredible opportunity, you guys. I've had the opportunity to go twice myself, which is why I brought it to the board. And we did a trial one last year. And as I said, we had really phenomenal feedback from the people that attended. So if you're interested in building those kinds of skills, if you're working up, you know, to be a department head, a producer, unit manager, anything like that, quite frankly, I think any position that we do within the DGC, you can really benefit from those types of skill sets that are offered through their courses. So please keep an eye in your emails or in the eBulletin newsletter. I'm sure it'll come out when we open up applications for this year. It's an incredible opportunity, you guys.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to take one more question from the crowd. I'll let Alexis pick somebody, and then I have one last follow-up question, and then we'll just cut to the mimosas.
I'm also going to interject as one does. How many of you have TikTok accounts? Micro shorts. You can be building your voice now.
People on there.
The creators that get the most engagement have really distinctive voices. Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Village, and I've been eating for 3 years now, and I'm really trying to get into tatting. But whenever I've like talked about it with my team, like everyone's like, you're soft-spoken, I don't know if you can do it. So like the discouragement has been mentally challenging a bit. And I find right now, like I just got into DGC, I couldn't really afford it. And with the strike, there's just been no work. So it's been really mentally challenging, I guess I would say. So my question would be like, how do you guys deal with the mental and stresses of film and what comes with that? Because I'm sure with years of advice comes with that as well.
That's a fantastic question. Who would like to take a shot?
You go first, Matt. Wine is what he's.
Wine.
Gonna dive right into substance abuse here.
One number going, what's the helpline? In all seriousness, I know it's a different world now compared to when I was a PA, but it is, because remember when we started, and I, because we were PAs, there were 3 series shot in town, that was it. And then if you're lucky through the winter, there might be a TV movie, and then in the summer there'd be a feature, and you knew everyone who was working. So I knew that, okay, Kendrie was the Allan on this, and Wendy Williams was the Allan on that.
Yeah.
Charles Law was the Allan on that, so I knew the 5 people that were working, and that's it. We weren't on one of those shows, and winter came along, you didn't work.
Yeah.
And that's what we dealt with. But that's what we learned was the industry. Right now, this strike, and 3 years ago, we had it with COVID, it was a downturn. Here we are 3 years later, another downturn, and it was slower before. I think part of that was the, negotiations and Hollywood saying, great, we're gonna, make Vancouver pay for a little bit. It happens, it's cyclical, it happens. And through my career, it's happened in Toronto, it's happened in New York, where they just say, we're not gonna go to that town for a year. We're gonna make it so we're gonna make them starve a little bit. And it's hard and it's disheartening. And it's easy for any of us to say, well, you just have to prepare for it. It doesn't make it easier. It's the fact that it may be a downturn, and we've been really fortunate for the last, except for COVID, it's been 7-8 years of go. We had 50 shows shooting. As I said, I remember when there would be 4, maybe 5. And you have to prepare for it sometimes, and no one wants to hear this, but if there are other pursuits you can do, which keeps you busy in between projects, either, monetarily, so you're working on something, or interest-wise, and is it right now a great time to say, I'm gonna make my own film, I am gonna make it on my iPhone, because it's something I wanna do something, get together, and people, we talked about networking, not only networking to get work, it's also to realize it's not just you. And you're saying tatting, you're being specific to yourself as opposed to everyone. That's a hard thing, and this business is hard that way. It's all about ability, personality, and Kendrie and I may work together great. Jina and I may not work together great, because sometimes it is a personality thing. And there are people that are really good that people have asked me about. It's like, will you hire that person? I'll say, they work differently to I do. You need to meet them. They were really good. We work differently. And not everyone is right for every show. And that's something that's really important about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that as well. We're just loud over here.
Let me help you be louder.
But I was gonna say, you don't need to be loud to be a tad. And don't be dissuaded. You know what you're good at. You know what your strengths are. You don't have to be loud to be a tad. You just have to know your job. So don't be dissuaded. You are you. And Gordy may prefer a tad who's not louder. You guys might sync together far better because just on a vibe connection, sort of, it's kind of hippy dippy, but on a vibe level. But that is, we talk about relationships all the time, and that's what this is. It's about who you connect with and who you don't connect with. He may have you out on set and it's great. And so then you do a couple shows together. Don't be dissuaded. And yes, times are hard. And I know at your level, it's very difficult to save money. I mean, like Matt said, back then you could go almost a year without working, which I did back when I was PAing because there were no shows. But you will come to a point where you do make enough money that you do have to learn to save, because to use the writers, we are a gig economy. We are freelance contract workers. So there will come a point where even if you're just putting 10% aside, you will have to learn how to do that. And I know it's so hard, but don't be discouraged. This too will pass as it has. You'll see it through. You will. Gordy was.
Just to touch on the soft spoken, I'm probably one of the most soft spoken first ADs. This is my voice on set. If anybody.
Can you speak up? We can't hear you.
For example, I hate voice of God. I hate this. When I'm commanding a set, I barely use the voice of God. But that being said, if you're soft spoken, when you are loud, people listen. I've been told that so many times. When I finally tell people to shut the hell up on set, I scare people. Because you can't have a loud voice if you need to. You just have to be confident in yourself. Be confident you know how to do the job. Be confident and secure in yourself, and everything will follow. You don't have to be a certain mold of AD. I was taught that when I was coming up, you have to be loud, you have to be a screamer, you have to be swearing, you have to be the A-type personality. You don't. There's different types of ADs, just be yourself. In terms of other things, just keep myself sane. Find something for me anyways, everyone's different. I do something that doesn't relate to film. Catou knows I work out a lot. I just go for runs, I work out, and it takes up so much frustration. It's something, just turn your brain off of the film industry. Because then it doesn't remind you that, oh, I'm not working right now. Oh, I have to do this. Just do something completely separate, something that's not even related. That works for me.
On a side note, not being the loudest first AD does make you more pleasurable for people who are working for you. The loudest, meanest, rudest. So thank you for that, Tawni.
I'm just gonna echo what they said. No one can tell you no but you. No one can. It's your choice and your decision what you do. On the show I'm on right now, I was offered a first AD who's very outgoing and very boisterous and very loud. And I'm not shy and quiet. And I did not pick that first AD. I picked an AD who had a calmer temperament, because you don't need two of me on set. Right? So sometimes a more measured and calm, but it's like with directors, like what Kendrie was talking about, like we're still trying to get hired by the Americans to do the American shows here. Canadian directors, and we aren't yet enough of us getting hired. And one of the things we're trying to do is be American. And what that means to us is just to have that level of confidence that makes people trust you. That's what y'all need to do too. Like, it's so funny, we talk about, you know, PAs and directors, and that's really different. And no, I'm trying to break into something else. You're trying to break into something else. We're very the same. And so it's making people know that you are confident in the job that you're doing, but also being honest. I start every show I do by saying, I'm gonna make a mistake. 100% for sure. Somewhere on this show, I'm gonna make a mistake. And I appreciate everyone who has my back. It's usually the DP or the line producer. So I appreciate that. And I go, you're gonna make a mistake. And the biggest mistake you can make is not sharing that with anyone else. You make a mistake, no problem. Tell somebody, because together we can fix anything. It's only like when I'm in the edit suite and the focus puller didn't tell me that they were soft at a certain point, and now I'm just like, you can't do anything about it. So we're all in it together. So there's nothing you can't do if you choose to.
This is all fantastic advice. The final question that I want to ask is, if you had an opportunity now for each of you to go back to your first day on set and give yourself a little nugget of advice, what's the one or two things that you would really wish you knew then, that you'd really want to impart on yourself? And why don't we start with Tawni? Do you want to take a stab at this one?
Oh, yeah, let me know.
No? Thank you for turning the mic on. It works so much better that way.
I'm a helper. I don't want to bring down the mood with this one, with the end of this one, but this is, I know, but this is
Why you're going first.
I am. But this is something that's really important to me. It's important to me as your guys' representative as well. I wish I had the courage to speak up when I saw something that I knew wasn't okay. I came into this industry, without getting too specific, I had some experiences when I was first starting out that were just not okay. They weren't appropriate. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter who you are. I knew they weren't okay. And I didn't have the confidence in myself. And I was too afraid as a green PA to stand up for myself and for those on set. And looking back on that now and seeing kind of the snowball effect of me not speaking up during those situations that have kind of played out. I think about it a lot. It kind of eats me alive sometimes. And that's why it's so important to me when I come and speak to the fundamentals classes, that I really try to instill in people coming into the DGC to not be afraid to speak up. Report when you see something that is not okay happening. Talk to your PMs, your first AD, your ALM, someone who you feel is safe, or if you don't, for some reason, feel that there's somebody on set that you're confident talking to, call the DGC, because we cannot help if we do not know. Plain as that. And that is something that I had really wished I had known coming into this industry. So sorry to be the
Debbie
I think that's
Debbie
great.
Downer, but it
That's
needed to
great
be
advice,
said.
yeah. And I want to say too, you know, you could call in and talk to Alexis or Rob, myself, someone in our labor department. And don't hesitate to call and go, is this okay? Like, we have conversations all the time with people who are trying to decipher whether the behavior was just sloppy leadership or whether it was actually harassment or, so that's what we're here for. Please don't hesitate to use us for that. Do you want to add anything?
The only thing I will say, we understand it because we've all been in your shoes. We started as PAs, most of us on staff as well. So we understand the nuances and how difficult it is to speak up. So anything you say to us is by default confidential and we don't take action on it without your knowledge and consent. So it is like a place that you can call and talk to us frankly. And because we've been in your shoes, you don't have to explain the question before you ask the question.
Yes, it's a fully safe space. Gordy,
Oh, I
what would
turned
you
it off.
tell little Gordy?
I'm gonna keep the mood going the same, actually.
Sorry.
I'm in the same boat because, I am a minority, and when I started, I've been called names, I've had doors shut in my face. I've been yelled at with racist remarks, I've had old food thrown at me on set. You need to be able to speak up now. It's changed since I was, and I started in 2002. But when I was coming up, I was always under the impression, just keep your head down, keep working, don't say anything, and things will pass. So that's the advice I would give myself, just speak up, because now I regret every single thing that's happened to me and me not speaking up. And now I feel like it's too late.
That's great advice.
I don't know what to say.
Keep it going.
No. Please, moving on, folks.
Moving on. No, because I mean, I can say the same thing as a young woman in the industry back in the day. Some of the stuff that we talked about in the band, really, wow, it's astounding. And all of those people are all still working. I think for me, what I would tell younger me is humor goes a long way. And I know this sounds really trite to say when someone says, don't take it personally. Because obviously there are times that you really do take it personally. But to quote Kendrie Upton, sometimes people are just having a bad day, especially when they're sleep deprived, and you need to forgive yourself. But more than anything else, I think I would just tell myself, a younger self, is to take care of myself better, especially in those early years.
Another piece of great advice. This is the best question ever. Go ahead, Heather.
I didn't know how to flush the toilet my first answer.
That is super problematic.
Couldn't figure out
Locations
where it
department.
was. Looked around for a long period of time, and I was like, oh, there he is. So it's really dumb.
So you would tell yourself how to flush. the
I would tell.
toilet. There should be a diagram,
I
Frank.
actually got to, so sometimes as a director, you get a little trailer, and I was in the trailer, in the washroom, in the trailer, and I just had that moment of, oh, I know how to do it now. Tom Hanks famously said this too shall pass, which you guys said as well. So when something really good is happening, this too will pass. When something really bad is happening, this too will pass. I have a habit of, I have a great home life. I'm a blessed woman with, you know, two fantastic kids and a partner. I sometimes would be in Safeway and I'd be thinking, my professional life is shit, but my personal life is so damn good. And I would recite that sometimes as I drive into work. And you know, as a director, you set the tone on set quite often. And so like, you know, in my early days when I knew nothing and, you know, you're just going on a wing and a prayer, I would always like sort of counsel myself, walk in happy, ask people how they're doing, get out of your head and a little bit of kindness goes a long way. And that's it. This too shall pass. And being kind to others when they'll be kind to you are the two things that I live with to this day and enjoy.
Is that why I was always the crew park PA?
Yeah.
This too shall pass.
Yeah. I was the happy PA. People hated me first thing in the morning.
I can't imagine working on a film set on my first day that actually had toilets that we could use.
Oh, dear.
No, I mean, it was outdoors, Toronto, January 19th, 1978. It was a blizzard. And I knew I was being set up to fail and I'd be fired because the third AD fired, or the first AD fired every third. I had watched him while I was shadowing the summer before. Yeah, and And I just knew it was not gonna be fun. And it wasn't. It was really, really hard. And I was way over my head. I think sometimes the question, it's the type of question I've sort of, I want to get to the root of it, that I don't know that there's anything I would do, because if my career is like a Jenga that I've built, and if I changed any of it by attitudinal changes or, you know, being in a different place instead of being yelled at over here, I'd be doing something better over here. Then 45 years later, that career wouldn't have been the same, the butterfly effect, right? So no, there's nothing I'd go back and change. And my father passed away that day as well. I got a phone call when I got home. And well, we knew it was coming. He had cancer. We didn't know it was gonna be that day. And I'm pretty sure I would have been fired before the end of that show, because that was how Michael operated in those days. But when he found out the next morning that my father passed away, he sent me home. He said, go home, take care of that, and you'll have a job when you come back. So, yeah, no regrets. I could have changed that, could have been drier, could have dressed better, but I didn't have the money yet. I eventually had a career whereby I could afford enough fall weather gear to keep myself dry. I was one of those PAs, and I was a third AD, but we didn't have PAs, like I said. But I was one of those people that, you know, the first rainstorm wearing the cutout garbage bag over your head. And an electric came up and said, dude, here's $200. You gotta go get yourself a rain jacket. Like, we don't have people like you hanging around here. You better get a coat, you know, if you're gonna work in this business. So, yeah, sorry about digressing, and things are probably not relevant.
Yeah, always having spare socks is really good.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Okay.
I think one of the more important things is that I encourage you to keep perspective. At the end of the day, we're just making entertainment. We're not saving lives. Any of that. So every day's keep it in perspective. It's just entertainment. What we do is hard. It can be very complex, but it's also really fun and really cool. So, you know, I would tell myself, make sure you every day, how are you going to make that day fun in some way? And what I tell my team every day is, how do we build a better boat? What are they gonna do today to make our process better, more efficient, smoother, more fun?
That's good.
That's great advice. My wife, like Ken's, works in healthcare, and I find having somebody in the house who actually does contribute to people's health and well-being is super. It just grounds you, right? It's like to realize that what we do is telling a great story. And by the way, you know, to quote Randy Shovelday, who's just disappeared off the face of the earth, but always said, you know, when there be some terrible, terrible problem happening. Yeah, you'd be like freaking out as a location manager, and he'd be like totally nonplussed, completely blasé about it. He'd be like, how can you be so relaxed? He'd be like, well, I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen an episode of TV not get made. And it's so true. Like at the end of the day, you've done something and it feels like the whole world to you, but it goes back to what you were saying earlier about share that mistake, because the minute you share it, there's more eyes on it and it will get solved very easily. That is really what we do in this industry, is solve problems 24/7. So just put it out as one of the problems and it'll get solved.
I like to say we don't get paid for every day that we go to work. We get paid when there's problems.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Gina.
My first day on set was 16, so I took everything personally. So to echo what you said, you know, like just it's tough sometimes. You have to get a thick skin, as they say. But yeah, it's not often you, it's them that is having a bad day or whatever. So it's hard to take at times, but yeah, to just, you know, walk away, don't elevate the situation, just. You know, I mean, I was in craft service, everybody complained about the food, it's free. Like, why do you complain about the food? I don't understand. Even at 16, I didn't understand that, so anyway, yeah, it was like.
The one single defining factor that should make all food perfect, you didn't pay a penny for it. Doesn't work in film.
Exactly, and it's always about lunch.
Sure.
It's always about lunch or fun.
I don't know.
Wow, you had this whole line and you don't have an answer?
I'm gonna sound hippy-dippy-ish, as Catou likes to say, and say, live in the now, appreciate the moment. It could be shitty, appreciate it, so that when tomorrow happens, it's gonna be better. Remember that yeah, but last week was worse. Or this is great and learn from, and be confident and learn every day. Learn, and that's so important because you're given a lot of opportunity in this business. It can be shitty, it can be great. And I guess ultimately, as whoever it was said, take care of yourself. Without your help, you're fucked. So take care of yourself. No one else will do it for you. That's the most important thing. And I've worked way too many hours. I've done double shifts where I finished a 16 or 18-hour day. Drove straight to set at 7 in the morning to do another day. When I was a PA, because that's what we used to do. And don't do that.
Recommend it.
Use your benefits.
Take care of yourself.
Who are members and those who are about to be members, use your benefits.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. Thank you to all of you for your amazing answers. What great, let's give them a round of applause. I didn't put you up once. It's awesome. So before we do a little bit of socializing, we do have 4 gift cards to give away. Thanks to the lovely and talented Tawni Duhamel, who wanted to make sure that you left parting gifts. So we have 2 state cards for $50 each and 2 Petro Canada cards for $50 each, which will get you about 3 blocks these days, and some DGC swag. 3 hats and a water bottle. And our lovely and talented assistant Alexis has put you all into the handy dandy spinny thing. That's the actual technical term for it that we use here to give away gifts at the DGC and on our Zoom meetings and so on.
Wheelofnames.com, folks. Okay, so it's you guys are witnessing, there's no preference here. And by the way, none of the elected have been entered into this.
Sorry about that, guys.
Conflict of interest there. Okay, here we go. Ali Wong. Ali Wong.
Ali Wong.
So next up is, sorry, what do we have? Gas card. So next up is a gas card. Tapping to spin. Yeah, Petro.
No. BBC really fast. What could be better?
Let's do another grocery card. Robert, Crystal.
More gas card. One more gas card. Here we go.
Lachlan McClave.
And
by the way, when people win things, I remove them from the wheel, so.
There's a button you can push to do that. Okay, let's do you want to do the hats next?
Sure. Hats, hat number 1. Speaking of gear, weather resistant. Nothing's waterproof for 15 hours, but it is. Weather resistant. Ben Smith, congratulations. Okay. Spinning the wheel again for hat number 2.
The part check. At number 3. Ooh la la.
Annette Riley.
Yeah, if anybody needs to trade it in, and then.
Bottle of water, no water in it. You have to self-serve the water.
Which goes to.
Landon Ramirez.
Also didn't fill it with dinner. That's good. That's I love the presents. All right, thank you so much, you guys, for coming. I hope that this has been both useful and interesting. And thank you guys. It was amazing actually hearing your stories, even though most of them I know. It's fantastic. And we'll be here for until about 2:30. Socialize, eat, please help yourself to the refreshments in the boardroom and start some networking. Thank you.